Dialus's smooth and silky hands feel nice when he pats us. But I wish we had a potentate big and strong like you.
In the shadow of the Erdtree expansion, the original potentates can be found in the veiled and forgotten realm of Shadow. Under a destroyed town, and guarded by Hornsent Inquisitors, atop a well is where you'll find it. Bonny Village, the domain of the greater potentates. But what do we already know of the potentates of the lands between? From our understanding of the base game, a potentate is somebody who takes great care of the living jars, with the requirements to even be one being soft, smooth hands. All the better to pat the jars. Furthermore, conflict and even violence doesn't seem to be in the nature of most of the jars living in Jarburg, who prefer a peaceful existence, frolicking in the flowers of their secluded village. Though the same cannot be said here, as we continue to explore. The potentates of Bonny Village patrol the grounds, and will immediately attack the Tarnished if spotted. There are 3 that wander the village, who all behave in the same way. It can be inferred that the Hornsent that's a part of the band of Mikola was once a potentate too, given the mask we find from him. But what's the reason that they would attack us on sight? We can gather some clues from their weapon, the Bonny butchering knife. It can be found nearby. Its description reading, Weapon of the Greater Potentates of Bonny Village, an outsized butcher's cleaver, used to dismember human bodies in the making of the great jars, stored in the jails. The weapon itself shares its design perfectly with the standard butchering knife in the base game wielded by Tarnished Eater Anastasia. Perhaps there's a connection, though I hesitate to say for sure. Nevertheless, we can indeed find the potentate's handiwork in the various underground jails across the DLC, grotesque amalgamations of flesh stuffed into giant jars. We know that the main ingredient, among other filler material, in these creations were the shamans, a group of Newmen, who in ages past were the kin of Marika. It's important to note that this origin is different from the jars of the lands between, who do carry dead in them, but for seemingly different purpose. As to why this cruel practice was performed, we are made aware that in Hornsent society and culture, it was believed that this process would raise the status of those trapped in the jars into sainthood. We can find a spirit just outside the village, in a building called the Whipping Hut, who provides some clues into the perspective of the Hornsent. For pity's sake, your place is in the jar. Nigh sainthood itself awaits you within. For shamans like you, this is your lot. Life were you accorded for this alone. In that same hut, we can find the Tooth Whip, a tool used by the potentates. Its description reads, Whip bestrewn with rotting, misshapen teeth, filthy and seething with disease. The teeth are embedded in the whip and dose the victim with deadly poison upon each strike. As the wounds ripen, they grow inflamed and ooze pus. The flesh of shamans was said to meld harmoniously with others. In the lands between, we know of another whip-wielding potentate.
Do you pity me? Well, don't. I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm on the straight and narrow.
The question begins to emerge. Why are the 2 types of potentates so very different? Perhaps it's out of instinct of the living jars and a tradition lost to time. Perhaps it was started by the potentate who created the cookbooks, as they seem to have hated the original practice of their homeland. Though I'm not confident in this train of thought, as I believe the concept of a potentate in the lands between emerged after the sealing of the Shadow Realm. Theory I lend credit to is that this was a practice put in place to make a sort of mockery of the Hornsent, perhaps as a way to completely remove their sense of culture from the world as a form of revenge. After all, Marika already sent her son on a crusade against them, and had great reason to try to wipe them completely from the history books. Perhaps that's it. Perhaps it was just an extension of the damnation that Marika sentenced them to, as they had to her people. An eye for an eye. For the horrible crimes committed by the Hornsent, they themselves were to be placed as another chapter in a never-ending tale told so very deeply in blood.
The tale of House Hoslow is told in blood. That's the kind of warrior I'm going to be. One who protects everybody.
The story of Dialos is one of my favorites in all of Elden Ring. The story of a man consumed by a desire for vengeance and upholding a dark legacy, in spite of his nature. That same man coming to terms with himself, overcoming his own cowardice, and sacrificing himself in order to protect a people that he cares about. But with the expansion, I feel that a whole new dimension to his tale gets brought into light. Parallel not just to the greater potentates of the Horn Scent, but even to Queen Marika, who would take her pain and eventually become the same type of monster that her people were persecuted by. Even if only in a small way, in a different context, Dialos' story showcases a break from a cycle of death, of pain, and of vengeance, and it shows a man who, after a great series of hardships, mistakes, and reflection, gave up everything to protect others, and in turn, inspired that hope in another. While Dialos' story may do little to affect the lands between on a grand scale, it highlights a small display of, again, hope in this world marred by torment and despair. There's beauty in that, is there not? To finish on a poetic note, I find it extremely interesting that when the Jar Baron has presumably taken what was bequeathed to him by Dialos, we can find where he laid some interesting things. His mask, his whip, and, very curiously, the rune of a Newman. The Newman are said to have come from outside the lands between, and are in fact of the same stock as Queen Marika herself. Perhaps he was the greatest potentate. Thank you for watching.